Welcome to our special Women's History Month series. This series looks at the voices and achievements of local female leaders. Today, we celebrate Martha Campbell. If you don't know Martha, you're one of the few. She has left an indelible mark on Tuscarawas County, and she tells us how her passion for community started. Martha Campbell, everyone in Tuscarawas County knows you, right?
I don't know if everyone does, but there's probably a lot.
I mean, you can't go anywhere outside of Tuscarawas County, and especially in terms of Ohio State alum. They're like, where are you from? Tuscarawas County? Oh, Martha Campbell? I know who that is. Yes.
My great niece reminds me of that all the time, too.
Is she at Ohio
State?
With
me. No, she'll be 13. But she reminds me every time we go somewhere. Oh, yeah, of course you know someone. Of course you know someone.
What's it like going to the grocery store with Martha Campbell? Does everyone stop you?
They do not. And to be totally honest with you, it's because my mom enjoys going to the grocery store, so I don't go very often.
Oh, good.
And if I go, I usually go early in the morning or late in the evening, so.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You can get.
But I love talking to people, and that's the bad part, because then I'm usually at the grocery store for 2 hours, so. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you became to be this prolific leading lady of Tuscarawas County.
Wow. Wow, what an honor that you just called me that. Wow, that's amazing. I have to say that really it's my family. It's how I got started. When I was 3 years old, my father had a trucking accident. Resulting from that trucking accident, he lost both of his legs. And the people in the Twin City communities were so incredible to our family. Volunteering to bring food, volunteering to babysit us while my mom went to visit him in the hospital, all kinds of stuff. When my father got out, my parents, they're like, we can't pay everybody back. You know, we didn't have the resources. Yeah. And my dad said, well, maybe we should pay it forward. Wow. So literally, after Claymont schools consolidated, before I was even a student at school, they had a levy on the ballot. And so when we went trick-or-treating, we wore signboards encouraging people to vote for the school levy.
Oh, that was your Halloween costume?
Yeah, I had a costume on and then that over top of it. But that was actually my first introduction into doing something positive for our community.
Yeah.
And it just blossomed over the years. And I tell people, I think I was 16 years old when I realized it's not required. And that not everybody does that. Mm-hmm. But I was so hooked already by then and all the things that my family was doing that I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
And maybe got a little bit overboard sometimes, but it's all good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really humbled to be able to do what I do. Mm-hmm. You know, I work for the Tuscarawas County Engineer. I've been there for 35 years. And it's a great job, great people I get to work with, and I'm also serving the public in that position as well. But on top of that, I also have the opportunity to volunteer for so many different organizations, you know, in and around Tuscarawas County, and also a lot in Columbus. A lot of my volunteer work is for the Miss Clayland Scholarship Program, which is the preliminary to Miss Ohio, Miss America. Also with the Claymont Foundation, the Ohio State alumni of Tuscarawas County.
You're like the go-to for the Ohio State alumni.
Possibly so. And if I don't know, I'm going to find somebody that does. Very active, of course, with the Denison Depot Polar Express train rides. I'm the official ELF scheduler, which is a very big job. Takes a lot of time, but it's always fun, and that's just one of my favorite events that we do here in this county. The one volunteer thing that, and I say it, that might sound weird, but that I do for me, I volunteer at the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those places, I'm not in charge. I just go and do my volunteer assignment. So that's very cool for me.
Yeah.
And you get to meet so many amazing people. People come from all over the world just to come to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so I love it when people share their stories with me of when they've met a Hall of Famer or when they've had this experience at a sporting event. And I think that's just as important as the opportunities I've had to meet, you know, a Hall of Famer or other football players as they come through there. So I think just a lot of things where I feel like I'm being so helpful there too, but football is my passion. I love football. So, you know, so that just makes it a lot of fun too. But
on a side note, since football is your favorite, Favorite OSU player ever?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard.
Do you have to say a Tuscarawas County native? Because I can think of a few.
I don't have to say Tuscarawas County native because I have had the opportunity, like with the 2nd and 7th Foundation, the Cordell Cares Foundation, the Joshua Perry Family Foundation. I've had the opportunity to work with so many amazing athletes that people don't even know give back to their community.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm really biased. Joshua Perry is probably one of my favorites, not just because he was an outstanding player and then went to the NFL, but what he has done with his career now. You know, he's a sportscaster, does podcasts, but doing stuff on Stadium, and was doing it on Bally's, and now is with NBC. But his true commitment to serving is so important. And that means a lot to me. And that's really how we made our original connection. I met him when he was a student at Ohio State, and we were at a football camp volunteering together. And I told him, after speaking with him for a while, I said, when you graduate and you go to the NFL, I'll help you start your foundation. And so I've been able to be a part of that for a long time. But there are some amazing people. You know, all the people who you see volunteer, so many of them like volunteer for the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer, which I also am fortunate to be able to volunteer with. And just the time, the energy, and the effort that any athlete across any sport gives, I love that they utilize that platform, and I have a great deal of respect for them for doing so.
Yeah. Did you play sports growing up? Is that why it means so much to you?
I did not. You know, my dad, I played junior high basketball to start, but I am such a math geek that
That's not a problem.
my dad used to be for another radio station with WBTC. My dad used to announce high school football and basketball games, and I would always go with him.
Oh.
And so I'm sitting behind my dad during basketball games doing the stat book.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and so
I get that.
I love that part. And when I was in high school, I was also a statistician for the basketball team.
The
when I was in
energy.
junior high, I was the official bookkeeper for the boys and girls teams. So 4 nights a week, I was at a basketball game, and I loved it.
The energy, I think the energy behind the scenes is just as intoxicating as it is
Absolutely.
in the game.
Absolutely.
For sure. And I'm sure you took that with you when you went to Ohio State. For Ohio State football games, it was probably
Absolutely.
like dream come true.
Yeah, and even at Ohio State, and this is what I tell kids when they go to college, I say, go watch as many different sports as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you think, oh, we have all these sports available. No, we don't. When you go to Ohio State and you see how many sports there are, you're like, wow. So that was my goal when I was there, to try and go see every sport that I possibly could see.
Especially being from such a rural area, we're not exposed to like lacrosse, hockey even.
Yeah,
you know, and
field hockey.
Right. So, I mean, going down to a bigger or larger university, seeing that, it definitely, you learn a lot. Whenever you were talking about your volunteer work, you mentioned the Miss Clayland pageant. How did you get involved with that?
My parents. Essentially, my parents have both served as, my father was a co-producer, my mom was in charge of fundraising, and my mom served as a hostess for former winners as well. And when I was younger, I was in an organization that was associated with the Masons called Rainbow Girls, and we were the ushers every year. So I literally started volunteering with that program at the age of 13.
And what made them want to get involved in that?
Well, we were all about community service. And so an organization that's about community service, we had a connection to somebody that was involved, and so we just started doing it. And, you know, it was just one of those things that, especially when, you know, the scholarship portion became so important, and then the community service aspect became important. That's why they really hooked me and kept me coming along, because I think it's so important for younger people to understand what it means to serve other people.
Yeah.
And you also realize what you end up getting out of it instead of just what you're giving.
Right. It makes you feel good to give back.
And people are so appreciative when you do the slightest thing for them.
When you have, since you've been through so many incredible avenues of your career, have you ever had a moment where you felt, because you are a woman, that you were held back a little bit?
Yes. And I will not say that with my job.
Right.
But I also see the type of department we are, where we are road and bridge. And it was
men,
always
yeah,
men
yeah.
that were doing that. Now, being the office manager is different, but I am very excited to say that we now have a female who is getting her CDL to be a truck driver there now.
Oh, that's so
And I'm
cool.
excited about
Yeah.
that. I think that's cool that we're seeing a change. But part of that also is we're finding a lot of people, we've been struggling to try and find some people to hire. And, one of those disadvantages is when you're in a government entity, you are limited by your income. We can't just go, have some fundraiser, raise our price on this, because we don't sell items to the public. We don't sell our services.
Right.
So, we are limited in that aspect. But I've seen a lot of people come and go just because of age.
Yeah.
And so it's like almost a whole new group there now. As a matter of fact, of all the people who are employed in the department, I am the most senior now.
How does that make you feel?
Old.
I'll be there one day, I'm sure.
Yeah. But more, I saw where I was limited in some of the activities I was doing. For example, when I used to be in the Claymont JCs, of course, I'm way too old for that now. When I first started out in there, the JCs as an organization started as an all-male organization. Oh. And then they did the JC Wives. So like the spouses of the JCs had a separate organization.
Okay.
Then they did JC Women, so you didn't have to be a spouse, you could just be a part of it. And then it just combined all into one. And I think getting to that point was a big step for us. But for some people, it was very difficult for them to accept women coming on board because they were used to it being more of a male-dominated organization. Now, of course, in other places where it is still active, it is thriving with both males and females in leadership roles. And I think just from my perspective, that was frustrating because I'm one of those people, okay, I'll do this, and when I tell you I'm going to do this, I'm definitely doing it.
Right.
And I think that's why it was very hard for me as well to be in that situation.
It's like a setback a little bit, and feel like you're up against like a brick wall.
Exactly. And it's funny because I also sometimes find it at the Hall of Fame. I don't feel like I'm being discriminated against in any way because I've had the opportunity to be able to do so many things there. But I give tours, usually every week or every other week. And, it's an extra cost for people to do the tour. And so when I walk up to the group of people that I'm doing it with, and sometimes on the males' faces, I see this look of disappointment like,
oh, no.
Great, it's a woman. What does she know about football?
Oh, listen.
And then by the time it's over, I've had some guys go, we are a local group and we go out and do trivia every week. And you want to come be on our team for this football trivia part? And I'm like, oh, thank you for the offer, but I'm very busy. But, by the end,
you feel
people
good
are like,
at the end,
Yeah, and at the end, people find out that, oh, she knows a lot about football. Yeah. And I admit, I thought I knew a lot about football until I got to the Hall of Fame. And I have learned so much more now that,
right.
I love it. I love it. It's great. I love the history of it, and it's just so unique and just how it all got started and why. But yeah.
That's so fun.
I guess I'm also kind of one of those people, though, I have a big personality. And so I think people know by now, especially, that if I say I'm going to do something, they know it's done.
Right.
And they don't have to worry about it. So I think that's always a very positive thing. But
absolutely.
Yeah. I think in that area, I think we've been in a situation where we haven't seen so much of that. Where the women now, I think they're seeing that women being involved is actually boosting organizations. And so, a lot of the organizations, even like I call them the animal clubs, but like the Elks, the Eagles, the Moose, the Lions, all of those have now added women, and they're all still thriving. And so I think that's a very positive thing. And it gives more females an opportunity to be involved.
Absolutely. You were talking a little bit before we got started about the Claymont Foundation. And I kind of want to talk about what you were telling me off the air. Because it's very fascinating how it kind of got its start and like where it's evolved and how much you guys are giving back. Kind of expand on that.
Right. When the Claymont Foundation started, it was basically for the purpose of helping to encourage and enhance the educational opportunities for the students at Claymont. And after several years, then they started a scholarship fund and gave out, I think the first year they gave out like $2,500, which was great back then, you know. But we have been so incredibly fortunate because so many people who were from the area or graduated from here really understood the importance of that. And so for many, many years, we gave out scholarships to high school students. Some of those ended up being high dollars because, you know, we were having a lot of people giving money. And we have some people who've given money that will sustain us for a very long time. And so that's very helpful as well. But a few years ago, one of the people involved with the scholarship committee said, you know, I think we really need to consider giving away scholarships to the kids who are currently attending college, not just those headed into college. You know, you read about kids who graduate from high school and you see these scholarships that are being awarded, and a lot of times you hear the same names. Oh, and you don't know the person, but you're like, oh, from Claymont, oh, this person, this person, this person, because it's the same names you see for a lot of those scholarships.
Right.
But those kids then now have probably more than they need. Well, maybe not more than, from back in my day, that would have been more than you need, but since we discussed that off there too, how different that cost is. But, you know, they get a lot of opportunities. But when you get to your second year, finding scholarships is very difficult. Not to mention your third, fourth, whatever year beyond that. So they decided at the Claymont Foundation that we need to expand that opportunity to college students as well.
I find that to be such a fantastic initiative because when you hear so many kids dropping out of college because they can't afford it.
Right.
And it's just a great way for those kids to think, well, maybe let's go back to my roots. And these people gave me money whenever I was a senior in high school. Like maybe they'll be able to help me out again. And to have that knowledge of knowing I can always go home to get help. And that money is from the homegrown, hometown people. And it's just, I love that. I think that's so fantastic. And you kind of implemented that in your college organization that you're a part of, right?
Right. Okay. So at Ohio State, just a few years ago, we decided, you know, we're same thing. We're seeing the same thing, that as you go further along in your years in college, that it's more difficult to find that financial aid. And so we now, for the Ohio State Alumni Association here in Tuscarawas County, our scholarships are not just available to current high school seniors, they're also available to those students who graduated from a high school in Tuscarawas County who are continuing their education at Ohio State. And it's just been, the appreciation that these kids express is incredible. And, you know, like for the Claymont Foundation this year, we just closed our application process a week ago, and we have 65 collegiate students and 32 high school students.
Wow.
So 97 students have applied for scholarships, and my hope is that everyone will receive at least a minimum of $1,000.
Oh, that really gives me goosebumps. That's so amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
And with those numbers, you just proved that those kids that are in college, they need the funding. They need the funds. So yeah, wow, that's good for you guys.
We end up, for kids that, you know, like we find out when they're going to be graduating, and so those that we know, like, will have graduated by the end of 25. So in December, when we put our application online, I send emails to all the kids I think should probably still be in school. So it just gives them a reminder that, hey, this is available for you. You want to definitely check this out.
You wear a lot of hats. How do you keep it all? How do you keep it all straight? Do you have an assistant?
You know, that's funny you say that. My mom, who is 25 years my senior, is my personal assistant.
Oh, bless
I even thank her on Secretary's Day. But really, I'm so blessed that at her age, she is incredibly computer literate. Okay. And so, you know, everybody says, man, how do you do all this? Honestly, my mom helps. And it's so helpful. And like with the Clayland pageant stuff and other things, you know, a friend of mine also helps. So it's like, I'm blessed to have people around me that see the importance of what we do and all across the board. And so they are willing to help me out. But I just have always been an organized person.
That's
and
good.
So keeping my schedule and, fortunately with your phone now, it's easier because you got it right there in your pocket or in your hand. And to just schedule everything that I do, it's just really, I don't know. I'm really blessed, and I'm grateful because my 13-year-old great niece, soon to be 13-year-old, Vera, she is very much like me. And when we have events, I think it is, because when we have events, she'll go, I'll take care of this part, and she'll organize that.
Oh, I love that.
But she has such a caring and giving heart too. So she goes to Tusky Valley, and of course her band director was on the bus, and she felt really compelled herself to do something about that. So she started making like little bracelets that says I Heart TV or TV Strong or whatever. And through donations and all the bracelets she made, like she raised over $800. Oh. But just the fact that nobody told her to do that, nobody asked her to do that, she decided to do that on her own.
I think you probably had something to do with that.
Well, maybe.
Like, not
maybe,
directly, but
right.
I think your influence is definitely passed down to her, which is incredible.
I have actually, I feel so blessed because I've had students that I've worked with through the years with different organizations and come back to me later in life and say, I don't think you know the impact you have on people because now I volunteer in my community.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like I truly am making an impact on people. Which is what I always want to do. Two things I've always wanted to do is make a positive impact on people and make them laugh. And fortunately, I've had a lot of opportunities to do that. Not just because of things I've done, but because I try and find a humor in the situation.
Always, yeah.
I think it's very important, and this is so out of this conversation, but, my mom and I are both, we enjoy cards.
Yeah.
But we'll find funny sayings, and so people that we know are going through struggles, we'll send them a card. And it will not be a serious card. Very rarely do I send serious cards. The only time is if somebody passes.
Yeah.
And people will say to us, my entire family laughed when we read those.
Oh, good.
And my theory is, if we can make you laugh and not think about what you're going through for just 5 seconds, it is worth it. And so that is kind of just a thing my mom and I, you don't even want to know how much mail we send. I don't understand how the post office is having financial problems with our family because I have a big Christmas card list too. So between Christmas cards and then all the kids that we know, we send holiday cards, like for all the holidays,
Yeah.
Easily out of our house every year, we're sending 3,000 pieces of mail, which is not bills, it's just cards. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and it's really kind of crazy, but it's something we feel very compelled to do that. We're very passionate about that and letting people know that we care.
What, if you were to name one person that has kind of inspired you, I know you mentioned your dad was the one that kind of was kind of the catalyst of how you guys got started in volunteering, but like who inspires you day to day to, get out there and to help the people and just to keep going and keep motivated?
I would have to say it is my mom. And, for those of you that know my mom, Mary Ellen, she has been also dedicated her entire life to serving the people in our community. My family's been through a lot of things, and never once have I seen my mom give up on anything. Oh. And I think that is huge, And I love the fact that, my great niece gets the opportunity to even go to the water park with my mom.
Yeah.
So my mom is still impacting like generations in my family, but also impacting so many people around her.
Yeah.
And that is just inspirational. There, another person who was kind of like an extra grandmother to me, her name was Jean Neighbor, and she was a woman who, when she was living, kept trying to break that glass ceiling all the time for women. And I'll tell you what, she was very inspirational to my mom and to me. And I think that's really, really key. But honestly, every person who's willing to stand up and do something for their community and to serve other people, I truly admire them and am inspired every time I see them do something.
Wow. I think this is where we're going to have to I think you just really nailed it on the head. That was so powerful. I can't thank you enough for your service just in Tuscarawas County. I think that, excuse me.
I'm sorry. I know I'm trying not to do it too.
No, it's okay. That was just, your whole story is fantastic. And it shows that you have such a loving heart. And I don't know why I'm so emotional, but you really touched me.
Well, can we make sure everybody knows that it's not physical?
Yes, there's no bruising.
No bruising
Right,
or whatever.
right.
Well, thank you. I
Yes.
truly appreciate that. I am blessed. You know, I think God was looking through life and he said, I'm going to give you money and I'm going to give you people. And I'm fortunate that I got people.
That's so beautiful. You are a great person.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything that you do. I'm sure that people tell you all the time, like, you're just an inspiring human. And I think that we are one of those women in Tuscarawas County that people need to really get to know and really kind of gravitate towards. So thank you for doing this. I appreciate
Thank you so much.